This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Running a small business means I wear lots of hats. When I put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn Hiring Pro to make it easy. LinkedIn Hiring Pro helps manage my hiring workflow, puts my job post in front of a unique network of professionals, and matches me with the best candidates for my business. I can also share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. No wonder most small businesses say they'd use LinkedIn Hiring Pro again. Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. My name is Ben Hilsinger, and I've been doing this podcast for over 6 years now, and I'd like to think I've gotten better along the way. So because of that, I've made a habit of revisiting older episodes and giving them a more refined edit. Today's episode is a conversation with Richard Spaven, recorded in early 2021. Richard's one of the most sought-after drummers in progressive and modern music. He's worked with artists such as José James, Flying Lotus, Starr, the Cinematic Orchestra, Jameszoo, and countless others. His career as a sideman is obviously incredible, but his solo work is where you can really hear his distinct voice. He's truly one of my favorite drummers, and I wanted to give this episode a proper dusting and bring his voice back to the top of the feed. I also wanted to introduce him to anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of hearing his work yet. So we'll be back with a brand new episode next week. And if you like what Richard has to say in this episode, he also has a chapter in Volume 1 of my Drummers on Drumming book. There he goes into a little more detail about a few of the choices he discussed in this episode. I'll see you next week. Cheers. How do you as a teacher go about allowing a student to find their own voice?
Well, it depends on the student. They sort of need to be ready for it, and it depends on the rapport that you have with that student as well. For me, there's two-way trust when you're working with someone, because you're communicating about really personal stuff, and I find the students where I can establish that trust, and it'll be students that I have respect for as people. I find that kind of allows us to get into all of that really interesting territory that makes lessons really interesting for me as well as them. You know what I mean? It's sort of like becomes more of a sort of joint discovery more than just a kind of, some sort of generic drum lesson type effort, Mm-hmm. That's sort of when I get passionate about teaching, is when you get into the real sort of deep psychological side and bigger picture music associated. We're always talking about music aligned with playing drums, and I feel like they're the sort of students that I work really well with. To be honest, I think if people come to you for lessons at this stage, I think I'm quite a specialist kind of a drummer. Like if you come to me for lessons, it's because you're looking for a certain type of thing, and I feel like it's my duty to be completely honest. Sometimes that's not easy as a teacher, but it's really like what I would be looking for if I was going to someone, if I'd sought somebody out to have lessons from. It's like, please, I really want to know what you think. It may not be sort of like technical, I tend not to jump on people's techniques immediately. Gradually over time, when you get to know someone, I think that's when you can make adjustments. But yeah, definitely saying it how it is. I think opinions need to be aired in lesson time, yeah.
And you were mostly self-taught, right?
In the beginning, no. I had a teacher, which was really useful because that was at a time when I wasn't musically orientated. I was so young that I just kind of respected my teacher and I just did what he said. And when it was technical things, I'd have hour-long lessons when I was 8 years old, and half an hour of that would just be technique, which I see a lot of teachers teaching kids these days who feel like they need to make the lesson more exciting, you know, whereas I was just kind of like, whatever my teacher says, Freddie Wells his name was, I'm just going to shout him out, bless him. Whatever my teacher said, I would just do, you know, just suck it up, basically, just get on with it. Because he was a big band drummer, so that was my first sort of discipline. So I feel like I got the discipline out the way early on, and then when all the hip-hop records and all the genres to follow came in, I was sort of like coming from a disciplined background where I could take that in any direction.
Mm-hmm. So we do have a few questions from some of our Instagram listeners, and
Nice.
The first one is, and I don't know what he means by this, so I hope that this doesn't fall flat, but this is Lucas Farron, and on Instagram he's at L Farron, and he said, ask him about driving a tour bus in Wisconsin.
This is some inside information. How does he know about this?
That's all the information I was given.
Lucas, I need to know how you know about this. And also, I had a disaster with some like Apple backup iPhoto nonsense where I lost the film of me driving this tour bus. But yeah, I was on tour in the States. The European tour bus drivers, they're all way too sensible and responsible to let any of the band drive the bus. Luckily for me, that wasn't the case in the States, and I kind of let it be known to the driver that I'd like to have a go, you know. And then it was just, I think it was one kind of late morning, everyone was still in bed, and he just called me up the front.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I ended up driving the bus, basically. It was an interesting tour, yeah. I'm not going into too many details, but how on earth does Lucas know this?
All right, so the next question is from Fernando Javier Cuadro, and he asks, and I'm quoting him, ask him how he did to get those dynamics. And so we've had a few people talk about or inquire about your ghost notes and your overall theory on your approach to building the blocks of your grooves with those.
It is a pertinent question. Thank you, Fernando, because it is actually important to me. It's something that I'm sort of constantly aware of, and it comes more from a kind of awareness, sort of like you're live producing yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like you're constantly, and I think this is actually a burden at times in my playing. It's like I'm so monitoring my output, you know, in terms of dynamics and stuff like that, that it kind of becomes this sort of fifth element of coordination or something at times. You know, it takes up quite a lot of CPU. But I think as well, because I mean, I know we're going to talk about electronic influences and stuff like that. That also made me really aware of it. Like if you're playing a dubstep pattern or like a drum and bass groove or something, I'm kind of thinking that the samplers and sequences where this has come from, the dynamics are very kind of measured and consistent. So I basically brought that into my playing. So I'll teach like a track of mine called Side to Side, and I'll talk about like ghost notes are one level and backbeats are another level, and just be aware of that and try not to play anything in between. The reason that I feel that's important is when you listen back to it, a recording of that, then it just gives you like a real programmed sort of aesthetic to your playing, which I just find translates really well onto records.
How did you go about working on that? Is there a specific thing you do more often than not that you feel has worked well for you?
Not in terms of like an exercise, but I mean, I have worked on all sorts of ghosting and, you know, playing an accent directly after a ghost note and that type of thing. But like I say, the main thing is actually just sort of monitoring it all the time and just making it something to be aware of. A lot of players will, without thinking about it, the velocity on the hi-hat will just go up and down. And I always say there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's the vibe, but it's just good to be aware and be deliberate about those things. And if that's what you want to do, then great. And if it's not, then you can just sort of lock off it's like another level of coordination. Just even out all your hi-hats and let that be the vibe, you know, but you're choosing what it is that you're doing.
Well, you're actually a great host, because what you just said about using the ghost notes in beats instead of exercises is very pertinent to this groove that I'm going to play right now, which is a song from your past. There'll be two that I'm going to play, and then we'll move on to your choices. That turnaround right there.
What's the time signature? That's the question.
All right, now it feels like 4/4, but
Not in 4/4, no. It's in 6/4. There's something that happens with a lot of my music, which is people seem to think that it's more complicated than it is. Mm-hmm. And then I'm just like, snares on 2 and 4, dude. Like, that's it. Yeah. And they're like, no, but it's 21/8 there. And I'm like, no. It's just a backbeat. So in this, the snare just goes on the 2, the 4, and the 6.
Well, now I want to play it one more time. In a real time right there, how I wasn't listening to the turnaround of the guitar. I was just listening to the drums. Like, well, I mean, I can bob my head, it goes like this, so it must be 4/4.
Well, the kick displaces halfway through, so it gives the effect of something shifting in the time, but actually you've got to just hold on to your 1. The snare never moves. That track is Vintage Year, right?
Vintage Year, yep.
Basically, I wrote that tune with my guitarist Stuart McCallum, and we both liked it so much that we both put it on our respective records. So my version was called Vintage Year, and then his version was called North Star. So I recommend checking out North Star. It's got the same pattern in it. We did that second, and I feel like North Star is a kind of more refined, developed version of Vintage Year, but you might want to compare the two. So we completely cross-pollinated on that tune, and so we were like, why not? Who's going to care? Why not? Let's do it.
I'm not going to sue you, you're not going to sue me, it's all good.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so number 2 is I'll just play it and then we'll go from there.
What have we got?
And leave.
There he is.
Watching my soul collide, and it's alright. We made it through.
Yeah, so that's The Self off your record, The Self, and it's featuring, is it Jordan Rakai?
Rakai.
I never pronounce names right. I need to just go with my second assumption, and that should be the case. So yeah.
Can you just say my surname real quick, please?
Spaven?
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's make it. I've had my moments with Spaven and all sorts,
The reason why I brought that up is because, and you alluded to this earlier, that you have a insane ability to go in and out of complex patterns, but still have that listenability factor. What are some non-negotiables for you when you're creating a drum part in order to achieve that?
Well, it's a great choice, firstly, just from what we were talking about with Vintage Year. Because again, this is just backbeat. This is in 4/4, and the backbeat's on the 2 and the 4. I sat down and tried to explain it to Mike Johnston one time. We were on a drum festival together, And it was great because he was hearing it like a 16th displaced. And I was literally writing it out on a napkin and was like, so you see the snare's just on the good old 2 and the 4, you know. But I just want to make soulful music. You know, I don't want to make over technical music that excludes people. You know, I want people just to be able to like, oh man, I'm feeling this tune. I'm not in it to make technical, you know, smoke and mirrors kind of thing. That's not what music is about for me. But it does sort of come from, I don't know, influences, I suppose. Like the Self came about when I was deeply into dubstep. Labels like Deep Medi, artists like Mala and Hatcher, Vivek, you know, Khan, bunch of artists. And I was just like, it just really sort of opened up this sort of stuff you can do, hi-hat patterns and all sort of around 140 BPM. That sort of became my favorite tempo. And then it's just like, how are you going to work that into your playing? And it sort of became part of what I do. And then putting that onto record and sort of presenting that was just a natural progression. And then it's just finding that balance really of like, I feel like with top kit, you know, with hi-hat and with your high frequency top kit, you can get away with quite a bit as long as the groove is really rooted somewhere. And that's the thing with the Self. You know, I know, you know, some people hear it differently, but I think if you're not someone who's looking for the complications, then you just hear that backbeat on the 2 and 4 and you can just rock to it. It's just fine, and you can just get into the soulful side of it, you know. For those of us that hear these things, maybe that's just a curse sometimes. It's like you just can't not hear these things. You kind of want to, if you dig under the surface a little bit, then there's quite a bit there for you in terms of like how you would go about playing this, even though you're sort of offering a 2 and 4 backbeat aesthetic as a result of all this hard work that you've done, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like undercurrents. That's kind of what's going on. It's choosing just tasteful grooves that have some sort of undercurrent level of complexity going on, that you do to the extent of not overcomplicating things or taking too much attention away from the piece itself, or, you know, it's just important to me, all that stuff.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Do you, when you're writing drum parts, do you think clinically, limb by limb, or do you kind of rely on more of what you've referred to as the zone, just jamming out and then listening back and being like, okay, that groove from this section is more of where I want this to go? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, total combination, of everything really. I just try and keep that really open, keep the approach open so that we don't get into some pre-formatted way of thinking, you know, of approaching everything. Also, programming stuff, that's been a thing. It's like, program something in real quick. Let me just put this hi-hat pattern over the top, and then you kind of work on the rest of the tune a bit, and then you start to demo-itis kicks in, and you start to really enjoy, you know, what's there. And then you're like, what if I try and play this on the kit? And then that transferring something onto a kit can be a real challenge, you know, in terms of how am I going to play this physically. It's like nothing that I would ever play naturally. And as soon as I get that feeling, that makes me focus in on it. Like, I want this to be the most natural thing, you know, because you feel like you're playing completely backwards, like your left side is leading or something, and it's like, man, this is just feels so unnatural. But I always just want to get those things and just bury them into my playing. And, you know, I think the Self is a good example of that.
Yeah. All right, so the first one is a specific groove that completely changed the way you think about drums. And it's the Amen Brother Break by the Winstons. And that's
Yeah.
GC Coleman on drums. And I'm going to start it at about 1:15, which is a few bars before the famous break.
It gives me goosebumps that I play that to students sometimes, and just, you know, it's just this like, yeah, it's a soul record, all right, big deal. And then you know, because it kind of comes out of nowhere, and if you don't know it's coming, and then there it is like that moment that has changed music so many times. Like, it's such a, I'm sure he's just like improvising that at the time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's a great bit of drumming if you just take the Amen break just stand alone as part of the Amen Brother track.
Yeah.
It's a great bit of drumming. But then what that inspired is just like, it's ridiculous, and it's still going, you know. We've got to say, like, not getting the respect that he deserved from that is sad. Just, you know, this, it's just like moment of genius, just beautiful, and yeah, it's a shame.
All right, so we can go on to number 2, and that is a performance which you either played or witnessed that altered your musical course. And you said Source Direct, Secret Liaisons. Is that the Amen break?
That's the Amen break, yep. And that was kind of the change in course for me. This tune came at a time when I was just, it was kind of the first drum and bass club that I'd been to, and they used to play this record at the end every night. I think it was Fabio or Bookham, one of the DJs. He would put Secret Liaison on and then just put his coat on and like take the headphones off and just let the record just play out. That they would just end the night on that every time, and it was just like classic tune of the time, you know. And for me, just because it had such an effect on me, it just sort of hasn't dated, that tune. And I remember that moment, and you know, I still got a little goosebumps, you know, right then just hearing it. And that sort of started off a real passion for drum and bass, and like I followed the scene, you know, and I bought records and I went to clubs, and I was so into it. And I wasn't necessarily just going home and transcribing everything at that stage. I was just sort of young and just being into the scene. And it's more like now when I look back on that, and I'm looking at the way that I play, and I'm just like, man, that is just DNA to me, that stuff. Yeah, that's why I chose that tune. It's just it was Mars Club in Charing Cross in London, and that was my first sort of experience of hearing that stuff on a system. Real small little crowd, little room, amazing, you know. No one these days can understand there was a time when nobody knew what drum and bass was. You know, if I play like everyone's like, oh yeah, you know, drum and bass, cool.
Yeah.
There was a time when there was no reference to that. We didn't know what it was. You know, I remember first hearing drum and bass on a car commercial or something like that, and it's like, what? They're using our music on commercials now. What's going on?
Sure.
And at that time in London, it was just such a small scene. And when something is going off like that, it, you know, when it's so underground, I think that's when musically it's really peaking, you know, like when it's still sort of in its early stages and it's contained. And that's what it felt like. It was the Heads crowd who just knew about this new thing. Really small scene, you know, it really, that was the seed. And I don't know if we knew that it was going to blow up like it did, I think when something is at that stage, you don't really care. You're just so into it. You know, it's just so good that you just soak it up, you know.
I'm curious, with everything being so digital now and everything osmosising, because you know exactly what's happening all the time. I wonder if something like that would happen again.
I don't know, but there's something to do with the fact that everything is available online, which means that things can be checked out in a precursory kind of way more easily. Whereas, you know, if I had to buy records, I had to go to Camden and buy the record, you know, and walk around with it, you know, and just like, and go to the clubs, and just, for me personally, that was a really important aspect to kind of live the scene.
Sure.
Rather than just check it out, you know. You can't check out drum and bass on the internet.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Just from my experience, is like, I'm sitting here talking, you know, you're asking me about like what tune changed your course, you know, and that's why it's important for me, because to really like embed itself in your playing DNA, you need to commit to it in some way. Watching something on YouTube is not a relationship, it's not a commitment, it's just a, you know, there's, wow, look at all this other choice that I have, I'm distracted already even just checking this out, you know.
All right, so number 3, and it's your favorite drummer and how their overall body of work has affected you. And you actually chose a non-drummer, which is a good decision. And so you said you're picking a bass player.
Well, we were just talking about just scenes and obsessing about music and stuff, and there was just some albums from, so it's Michelle Ndegeocello who we're talking about, bass player, and I just really bought into her musical direction and the sort of production and the musicians she was playing with. The reason I chose her as my favorite drummer, she's not a drummer, but she introduced me to so many of my favorite drummers. You know, they just came through her band. Like, she was just great at selecting drummers. Like, the first time that I saw Chris Dave was with her band at the Jazz Cafe in London. I think he's on the Comfort Woman album, which I recommend that album for some like early super tasteful Chris Dave. Amazing. And then there was the record after that, I can't remember the name of it, the one with Papillon.
Would it be the spirit music of Jameszoo, Dance of the Infidel?
Yes, that's like heavily recommended. But her early records, there was Plantation Lullabies, which just really hit me, that record. It's kind of, the drums are sort of a mixture of production and live, I think, so you can't quite tell what's going on there all the time. I think it's Dave Gamson as the producer, I think, and then Peace Beyond Passion was her second album, and they both just amazing bodies of work. Another drummer, I think originally Gene Lake was involved, I think, and Sean Rickman maybe, and then Chris Dave and Dean Tony Parks as well. For your favorite artist to then, you know, just have such great drummers going through her band. You know, I just followed her career and just kind of, her music changed and I just went with it. Like an artist you just really trust, you know, even though they just, you know, it's not like, oh, can't we have more of that same album, you know? It's just like I like to get on board with an artist like that, and you're kind of in for the long haul, you know, you don't know what you're going to get.
So you did reference the Comfort Woman album, and I believe this is Chris Dave on this, and I'm just going to play Come Smoke My Herb, or as you might say, Herb.
Every time I play that to any student, the pen and paper is always out. Like, I need to get on that. Yeah. if you've got some time on your hands, just put some Michelle Ndegeocello records on and just listen to what she's playing. It's like such engaged bass playing. It's just ridiculous. She's incredible. Yeah.
If you got the call to be the next one, would that be like this thing you're like respect it from afar kind of vibe?
I can't imagine, you know what I mean? It's kind of beyond that stage of like, that would be the dream call. It would sort of like psych me out and would be a bit too much now, I think.
Well, I have her on the phone now. Yeah, number 4 would be a record that just hit you at the right time in your life and represents a big part of your artistry. You said Burial, Untrue. The track is Archangel.
We might lose a few people here because this is kind of like post dubstep, programmed, scratchy, lo-fi. It's just so deep, this album. I love it.
All right, well, sorry guys.
I wonder how that sounds to anyone who's never heard any Burial before. What I will say about that is I've never had a problem in accepting electronic beats as great, you know, or inspiring or whatever. There's no divide for me in terms of, oh yeah, but it's not a real guy or something like that. None of that. So to me, I hear that and it's just like ideas, you know, just what a groove. It's just like, I absolutely love it. So
that came out in 2007. Where were you in your career creatively that just hit you? Like, why do you think that hit you so well at that point in your career?
I don't know how attached career-wise it was. I was probably playing like a lot of broken beat stuff at the time and a lot of hip-hop, and also just kind of, you know, being from London and being through that whole drum and bass kind of experience that I was talking about, you're still kind of just got one ear open for the underground kind of thing. So this dubstep kind of scene that's coming about and hearing fresh stuff, underground stuff, it was just sort of on that level that I received this as just like, oh man, it's kind of very soundtracky and moody, which I love that. I try and, you know, I'd love to make a soundtrack. I feel like my music kind of lends itself to that in a sense. You know, it's good to put your headphones on and look out the plane window or the train or something, you know. You'll be okay with my records, I think. But Burial was just kind of just beats and sounds and just that lo-fi sort of grittiness, and there's just some sort of like he doesn't program drums like on the grid, which freaks me out. He sort of chops stuff in a really different kind of way, and that's just seems to just give him a totally different vibe, you know, which I just kind of just latched on to some of those ideas.
Yeah. Is he still producing music?
He is, yeah. He was kind of like unidentified for a long time, which was interesting. A shadow that wanted to make beats, you know. There was a big kind of who is Burial kind of thing, you know. He's out in the open now. He's in plain sight.
Uh-oh. Yikes. All right, so the last one is the sound of a particular record that helped mold your tuning style. And you said David Axelrod, and it's the song of Innocence, specifically the song Holy Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. You know who the drummer is on this?
Earl Palmer.
Oh, of course. Oh, it's so good, that dynamic change.
Am I in the right place to just geek out and talk about bass drum sounds for a second?
Absolutely.
It's a safe zone for that, right?
Yeah. Wait just a second. Yeah, I think we're good.
So you're in the studio, right, and you're recording, and they're fiddling around with your bass drum, and then that subwoofer speaker thing comes out and stuff, and then you go in and you listen in the control room, and like every time you play the kick drum, like the air in the room just shifts backwards and forwards. Like, so kick drums need to have all this sub frequency on them. That seems to be the kind of the thing these days. Mm-hmm. But like, I feel like, because I play an 18-inch kick all the time, and it's kind of because all the samples, this is Earl Palmer playing before hip-hop was invented, I think. In fact, what date is this album? 74, something like that?
68, actually.
68. Well, right. So hip-hop's not invented, but he's just playing hip-hop. And of course, this has been sampled by, Madlib famously sampled this track. So me being into hip-hop and listening to those records is just sort of like, I'm into that sound, if you listen to the kick sound on that track, it's just a lovely, expressive kick sound that isn't messing with the bass frequencies. It leaves a bit of headroom or a bit of space in the lower register for the bass, and I love that separation. Mm-hmm. Instead of like sub bass and the kick all kind of, it's not so much the thing that I'm after for sound wise. So I'm trying to sort of sound like the samples sounded that got used in a lot of hip hop and stuff, and a lot of that will be higher pitched kicks because the samples came from an era when drummers played smaller, higher pitched bass drums. And I think that's a good example, that Earl Palmer. It's just like, it just sounds like a hip hop sample, Sure. I just don't think we should be just accepting that without questioning it and being, what are we trying to get here? Like, let's not have that as our default. Bugs me a bit, that one.
Well, I think that's a great place to end it, and I will let you go. But again, this has been, it's been a huge privilege talking to you. So thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it, man. It's like I say, the questions have been really interesting, and it's been really good. Just really involved questions, and you've got me kind of thinking passionately about all the stuff that's been important to me. So appreciate that sort of an interview. Thank you.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.